Thanks for stopping by Pete's Garage. Now here is a good one I want to share with all of you in case it happens to you or someone you know. I received a phone call today from someone in full panic mode. They were on the side of the road and they said as they were driving down the road, all of a sudden car lost power. They couldn't accelerate. The check engine light came on and something on the dashboard said reduced power mode. That means something in the computer sensed there was something wrong with the engine or something in the electrical system, and instead of damaging the car or allowing you to proceed at risk or of damaging something, the car goes into a reduced power mode, which means you can't accelerate past a certain speed. It won't allow you to rev the engine. It forces you off to the side of the road. And if you do get that happen to you, if that does happen, if you get that light and it goes into reduced power mode, immediately pull off to the side of the road as safely and quickly as possible. And the first thing you want to look at is the temperature gauge. Make sure the engine is not overheating. If it's not overheating, do not panic. It's nothing catastrophic. Just shut the engine off and calm down. That's number one. Secondly, if you don't know anything about cars or you have no one who can help you, my recommendation would be to stay on the side of the road, and if you have AAA, call AAA to pick up your car and have it taken to a dealership, because depending on what's wrong, it could be very severe, leading to a very expensive repair. You don't want that to happen. But here's something you can try. Of the things that will cause your car to go into reduced power mode, the most common thing that I have seen recently within the last couple of years is the accelerator pedal. Very common with BMWs. What happens is the accelerator pedal is simply a switch, and that switch tells the computer how much to open the throttle valve, or the valve that gives you acceleration on the engine. And when that switch, it's just a switch that almost like a dimming switch in your house. As that switch starts to fail, there are dead spots in there, and the computer interprets that dead spot as no contact, meaning it thinks the switch is disconnected. And when it thinks the switch is disconnected, it puts the car into reduced power mode because you don't want to have any risk with the accelerator pedal. Very critical for safety, and obviously if you can't accelerate, you're going to be on the road and you could be a hazard to other drivers. So the car puts you in a reduced power mode. Most common thing is accelerator mode. So if you pull off to the side of the road, shut your engine off, and usually you have to open the car door to shut off the car, open the car door and shut it and just sit there. Pump the gas pedal a few times, just pump it. You're not pumping gas into the engine, you're just moving a switch. Pump it a few times and restart the car. Probably 7 out of 10 times. That will correct the problem enough to you to get where you're going, maybe drive for another 5, 10, 15 miles or get to a dealership or a shop or somewhere where you can go avoid a costly tow if you don't have that. So try that first. Check to make sure it's not overheating, and if actually check to see, make sure it's not overheating, then get out and check your oil. Make sure you have oil in the car because it will sense that too. And if those two are fine, if it's not overheating and if you have oil, pump the accelerator pedal a few times and restart it. It should go away. The check engine light will stay on until you go through a couple heating and cooling cycles, but eventually that will go off. If that corrects the problem and allows you to continue, at least you know it's the accelerator pedal and you can drive the car safely without risk of ruining the engine. Now, once you've either gotten to where you're going or you want to go home and try to repair yourself, it is possible. If the accelerator pedal is going or you're allowed to continue after trying that, this is something you can replace yourself. And the pedal is not failed 100%. You can still drive the car. As a matter of fact, the car that I'm going to be changing a pedal on for you today, the person drove it for a whole week without any issues. I ordered the part and I'm going to put that in. But if you want to try this yourself, this is a very easy repair. Replacement part only costs somewhere from maybe $56 to as much as $128, depending on the model, the make, and the part. So it's something you can change yourself. It might be a $300 or $400 bill if you go to a garage, okay? And it's something that's very easy to change. Almost every vehicle, one bolt, one connector. Very easy to do. Sometimes there's 2 bolts depending on the car, but most vehicle, 1 bolt, a connector, you pull out the part, put the new one in, put it back together. Let me show you how to do it. It's good to get the new part in advance so you can see what the job might entail. And this is all the accelerator is. It's just a switch. You step on the accelerator, you have a switch on top, and this looks like it might fit into just a groove. And there's one screw on the side here. So one screw and then an electrical connector on the top. So let's go pull the old one out and see what it looks like. Now here's the two pedals next to each other, and there's a little difference here. You can see up here on this one the connector comes out the front, and on this one the connector comes out the top. I'm not sure it makes a difference, but we can take this out and compare it and see if, number one, if the pins are the same, and see if that will create an interference above. It might not make a difference. It does look different, but we'll have to take it out and see if the difference is significant. Just a 10mm bolt. To disconnect this connector, you just take this tab and pull that tab this way. You pull the tab out, you push it in, and it pops right out. Okay, so I looked up the original part number from GM, and the one I purchased does directly cross-reference to that part number. But there are a few interesting things here. First of all, you have to take off the rubber pad, and this is just the accelerator pedal. There's a metal top too. You just pop off and the rubber comes off of there. That just slides on like that. But here's something interesting to me. This is the part that I took out of the car, and if you look, there's yellow, looks like wax, yellow marker on here. Not even marker, it's a crayon, yellow crayon. There's crayon right here. There's crayon right here where the bolt goes. On the opposite side, there's crayon in the inside of here, and there's also crayon in here. There's crayon all over this, yellow crayon all over the place. There's a white paint, an orange paint dot right there. There's a blue paint dot right there. And I'll tell you this, a green paint dot on the connector right there. And I can tell you this, after being an engineer for General Motors for many, many years, another one, white paint dot right there. All of this tells me that, number one, this is a huge quality issue for GM. Why do I say that? Number one, all of the paint dots. The paint dots on here actually tell a story. When the suspect lot was sorted, someone probably put an orange dot on there to say this part is part of the suspect lot. Then they put the yellow crayon on there to make sure that it didn't have any interference with the connector, and once the connector was put on, it didn't interfere. Someone put a green dot on there. They probably bench tested it. Once it passed the bench test, someone put a white dot. And then after it was installed in the car, hooked up to the system, and the ignition turned on, and this worked okay, the blue dot was added, indicating that it was good to go. This part was a nightmare for GM on the assembly line. I guarantee it, with all the attention that was paid to this. Here's a little tip for you. If you are doing this and you have to put this metal piece back on here, put the metal piece on first. Little tabs here, and what you have to do is kind of fit it into the part. And if you use a little screwdriver, you can force it in just like this. So you very carefully come in with a screwdriver and just push it in. There, that'll be easier to put onto the accelerator pedal itself. In here like that, just slide it in. Then you can just kind of like stretch the rubber around the outside. Get on both sides. And again, use a screwdriver to get it around the outside here. Here's the pad fully installed on the new accelerator pedal. You can see the rubber just wraps around the outside just like that. Okay, first I'll put the connector on. Connector, look for the tab. The tab is on the inside, so I have to turn this connector around. And it has the same amount of pins. So it slides in, push the red connector down, or push the red tab down, lock it in place, slide it up in the slot, and make sure there's no interference with that connector coming out the top instead. And put the screw in. I'll have to block the camera for this one. Don't have to go too tight. That's enough. Now I can start it up and see if there's any issues. Okay. No check engine light. See if the pedal works. Okay. Everything works. So let me tell you what happens when a quality issue like this occurs on a vehicle, because I've been through many of them working for General Motors. This was probably discovered at the assembly plant. They were installing pedals, they were pulling cars off the assembly line, and they were probably having that problem where cars were going into reduced engine performance mode or reduced performance mode, and they had to stop immediately. As soon as that happens, they call the quality department, and the quality engineers go out and they start inspecting parts, and they want to make sure that it's a failure. They will pull out the part, and they will immediately look up the lot number, look up all the information on the part from their supplier. They will look at it, and they will look at the cars that are failing, or the vehicles that are failing. They'll look at the lot number, based on the build sheet or what part was put into there, because every part is barcoded, so they know every vehicle, what part goes into every vehicle. They've probably identified the lot of parts that were potentially defective, and they immediately went into replacement mode. They put a hold on every vehicle that had that lot or lots of part numbers that were failing. Those were on hold. They switch lots on the line. They physically stop what they're doing. They take all of those lot numbers out, and they look for the first good part or the first good lot to identify, just so they can get production going again. They switch on the line. They'll take those parts away. They'll bring in the new lot of parts that were verified. As a matter of fact, they might even called in the supplier of this part to check it out and make them pay for it, because GM doesn't want to pay for it. This must have been a huge quality nightmare. I can see everybody running around going crazy trying to fix this problem to keep the production line going. That's what happens when you have a quality problem like this. And when you remove parts, don't just take a part out and throw it away. Take a look at it. I am shocked by the amount of marks on a part that was original to the vehicle that tells me they had a quality problem. This is pretty shocking to me. And they must have had a real big problem with this. Now, the vehicle is 5 years out of production, out of warranty, and something like this is something that never hits their quality metric. So according to J.D. Power, all the quality metrics that the auto companies are judged by, first-time quality, all those metrics that you hear about on their ads, we are first in quality, first in this and all. Well, that's great. But what about 5 years when your accelerator pedals are failing? You had a quality problem on the assembly line, and all you did was swap parts, and you put parts like this, something that was checked. They knew that it could fail, but they put it in anyway. These are the kind of things that really, really aggravate me. When I worked there, I saw decisions made where this is a questionable part, but we got to keep production going, so we're going to put it in anyway. And what happens 5 years down the road, it fails. And what ultimately happens? People change the part. They never contact GM to say, hey, I had an accelerator pedal fail, so they don't know about it. They don't keep track of it. And the size of this problem never really gets noticed by the company. They never issue a recall. They'll never issue a service bulletin because not enough people do that, but you can do that. If you do have this problem, if your car goes in reduced power mode, and it is the accelerator pedal, you'll get the check engine light, you will get a code you can read, and if it'll say right on there, accelerator pedal, it's actually called a switch. So accelerator switch is just telling you the switch is bad. You can replace it yourself, save yourself a ton of money. I hope that helps you out. And quite frankly, it's interesting to know what actually happened when this quality problem was found on the assembly line. It must have been a real zoo. People running around 24 hours a day trying to fix this problem. And something as simple, this is a $56 part. GM probably pays, I don't know, probably 30 bucks for it. I bet you this problem cost them probably around, could be $500,000 to $750,000 cost GM for this problem. And would still continue to cost them if they issued a service bulletin, because they'd have to replace all of these, but they didn't. I had to do it myself. Pretty interesting stuff. I find it really interesting. I hope you do too. Thanks for stopping by Pete's Garage.